You are listening to the SDSU Football Podcast, presented by the East Village Times, with your hosts Andre Hagverdian and Paul Garrison. Welcome back to another episode of the SDSU Football Podcast. I am your host, Andre Hagverdian. We'll be joined, as always, by Paul Garrison, my co-host, shortly. Today's episode is an interview with senior linebacker Vai Kaho. He has been at San Diego State for 3 seasons. He has played on special teams primarily and some snaps on defense as a linebacker, started 1 game in 2021. He is looking forward to, picking up the slack from some of the departing linebackers from last year's team. 3 linebackers who graduated and moved on to bigger and better things. Michael Shawcroft, Caden McDonald, Cedric Lakalaka. So Vai Kaho is looking to step into a bigger role, either on the field and or leadership-wise as a senior. It was great to catch up with him and get to know him a little bit, his background, about his family, his life growing up in Reno, his high school days, and then obviously his San Diego State days. Check it out. I think you guys will enjoy it, and Paul and I will be back afterwards to break it down. We want to welcome Vai Kaho to the SDSU Football Podcast. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. Your full first name, I believe, is Kaho Movai Lahi. Did I say that right?
Hey, you said that really well.
Ooh, what? Yeah.
Not a lot of people get that on the first try.
Nice.
I
have a long last name, so I make sure to try to get names correct.
Hey, I appreciate the effort, man. You had it actually spot on. Yep.
So can you give us the background of that name? Is there a specific meaning?
Yeah, so my name it comes from the root from Tonga. I'm actually Polynesian, so I was my family was born and raised in Tonga, and that's kind of where my name came from. The name, my short name Vai, which is what I go by, actually means water in Tongan. I'm actually named after a waterfall in Tonga, and it's one of the biggest lakes. I think my grandpa was telling me. It has a lot of history on my name. So
nice. I had a coworker whose name was Vi because his dad was Samoan.
Yeah,
from that side. But I don't know if that was just it was Vi or if it was short for something. But I'm definitely going to ask him about that now.
Yeah. We definitely have a lot of similarities in both the cultures. Samoan and Tongan, they're super similar. Not a lot of differences. So that my name Vi is actually water in Samoan too.
Were you born? I think you're from Reno. Were you born in Reno, or like where did your family come from? In terms of like, were your parents born there and they moved here before?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Reno, Nevada. That's where my hometown is. My parents are born and raised in Reno as well, but my grandparents were first generation immigrants towards coming to America. So that's kind of how it panned out, and we just so happened to land in Reno. Thankful everything worked out from there. But yeah, it's a small little town, super small.
Nice. So you're a linebacker at San Diego State. You're going into your senior season. Seems like there's a lot of turnover in linebackers every year. You've lost some NFL quality linebackers, but the linebackers continue to replace each themselves without much drop off. Why do you think that is? Why has that group been so successful?
For one, I think it starts with the standard that we have here at San Diego State. Our defensive philosophy, it goes around the whole room, and not just, it starts in the linebacker room, but it's a culture. It's a culture shock, and, people adapt to the culture. And I think that's what all the linebackers have done a well job of, guys like Michael Shawcroft, Saguna Luby, Andrew and Cedric and guys like that. They just paved the way. I was blessed and fortunate enough to be behind those guys and watch those guys and see how they work. And it's kind of just the culture. You see how they go about their day and how they have pride about being here, being an Aztec. So you kind of just follow right in. And I took that upon my room this year, and I think you guys will be excited to see what the linebacker room has to bring this year.
So tell us more about that culture, man. I mean, from the outside, it's toughness, it's physicality, it's being able to outwork teams. But I mean, from the inside, man, what did you embrace specifically about the culture that you just described?
Like you said, we pride ourselves on being the most tough and most physical, and obviously a lot of outside people see that, but from the inside, what I see is a lot of guys who are truly hungry, and they seen that they were overlooked, coming out of high school, and that's kind of the culture here. We're as you guys know, we're slept on, just keeping everything within the culture, and doing the things the right way is kind of how I see it from the inside, and that's how it is. It's truly a bunch of guys who are interested in winning.
Could you tell us a little bit about your position coach, Coach Maddox? We've had him on the podcast multiple times. Always enjoy getting to speak to him. But as a linebacker coach, as a position coach, what is he like?
Coach Maddox, he's a great guy. He brings a lot of energy and a lot of passion. I don't think a lot of the media and a lot of the people get to see, because we're with him on a daily basis. So, he never turns off the energy. He keeps that same energy that we need at times, when during those ebbs and flows of the season, when we need a anchor. I think Coach Maddox has been super efficient in bringing the same energy, and again bringing that culture and radiating that culture, and letting it be known that the standard is the standard for sure. So being coached by Coach Maddox has definitely helped me a lot. He's taught me a lot about the game, X's and O's, and he's really slowed the game down for me. I still have a lot to improve, and I'm thankful to be with Coach Maddox while I'm doing that.
Obviously, Coach is not just the position coach, but he's the defensive coordinator. No other group on the defense can say that. So, I mean, what does that maybe change for the linebackers, or what is something that has him as the defensive coordinator that maybe adds to the linebacker position?
Yeah, Coach Maddox being the defensive coordinator is super beneficial for the linebackers. Seeing where his mind is and where his brain is thinking towards, whether it be whatever specific type of call on a certain down and distance. Seeing how he goes about it, and picking his brain is a big advantage that the linebackers have. Not only do we have Coach Maddox, we have Coach Hoke and Coach Sumler and all those guys who are really one strong unit. We just brought in Coach Boj. He's only added fire to the D-line room, a big addition. So I think not only Coach Maddox helps, but I think all of the defensive coaches as a unit, and especially with Coach Big Hoke, Brady Hoke, his knowledge of the game, it all blends well. And I think Coach Maddox has done a great job leading the defense.
Oh, just over the last couple of years, you've played different linebacker positions at Mike, at Will, against Air Force. I think, you've played that fourth linebacker. I think Coach Hoke called it a boundary backer because of their offense and how they, they're running offense. What is there a specific position you enjoy most?
Not really, man. To be completely honest, man, I'm just trying to get out there and do whatever it takes to win. The standard obviously is winning 22. So whatever it takes for the coaches to do, for me to do, I'm willing to do. But, if I had a preference, I like obviously playing off the ball. I like getting in coverage, but I also like making those plays. So again, it just has to do with whatever the coaches need us to do, especially with a year like this, losing guys like Michael and losing guys like Cedric. I might need to be stepping up more where I haven't been the most comfortable, but with that comes improving, and I'm excited to take on that challenge.
Yeah, we had Michael Shawcroft on after his retirement per se, and we asked him, who's going to help fill the role that he and Caden and Cedric are leaving. He named you obviously as one of those guys. So what do you think you need to do to step into that role?
I think as I keep playing, the role will kind of fill itself. I don't want to walk around here talking about everything that I'm going to do. I think as I keep my head down and keep working, it'll establish itself that I'm here to make a name for myself, but not only make a name for myself, but to win and be the best teammate that I can be, being the best coachable player that I could be, and just being a sponge. So I think that what I bring to the team will be known. I bring a lot of energy and I bring a lot of passion to the game. But not only that, knowing that I could be a leader out there, that guys count on me. So like you said, seeing guys like Caden McDonald and Michael Shawcroft, those guys have the blueprint, and I'm just trying to capitalize on that.
You were listed coming out of spring second on the depth chart at Mike linebacker behind Zyrus VSAU. What makes Zyrus excel on the field?
Zyrus is a ball player. He has natural instincts for sure. Being around him a lot, he just has a knack for the ball. Not only does he, but we got other guys coming up too. Guys like Brady Anderson, DJ Herman, New Zealand Williams, especially bringing him down from the safety room. It brings a lot of depth in our room. And the one thing about our room is super competitive, and they preach. Our coaches are always preaching how it's a healthy competition. But we're all fighting and rooting for the same goal. That's to win. But at the same time, everybody wants a piece of that. There's only so much people that could play, so everybody's just trying to take it day by day. And Zyrus has been super consistent. I applaud his consistency and how he goes about how he's playing right now. I really like the way he's playing.
And today, man, your biggest contribution, most consistent contribution has been on special teams. Could you describe your role on that side of the ball and, how valuable that is and being able to contribute to winning in that third phase?
Yeah. The third phase, I think we emphasize the third phase, special teams more than any team in the country. We have a great special teams coordinator in Coach Deke. The guy's passionate about being an Aztec first, not only being a football guy, and he's an Aztec for life. So again, that culture is just radiating throughout the special teams, and we don't sleep on it. It's another phase of the game that we emphasize. And again, as I mentioned, like, I'm trying to do anything for the team that includes being a special teams guy. And we just take pride in executing on that third phase and taking advantage of what we can in those 4 quarters. So I think Coach Deke has done a great job of that, and our team has.
And football is a very physical, violent game. But in that regard, your physicality stands out, not just in the game, but like the practices that Paul and I have been able to go to. That definitely stands out, your physicality. Where did that come from? Is that something you've had since you were a kid? Is that something you had to learn?
I definitely don't think it's something that you learn. I think it's something that I was, obviously being Polynesian is part of our culture, being physical. And I think football is just a great outlet to showcase what most Polynesians have in them, which is being physical, but also being playmakers and game changers. So I think being physical just comes from where I was, where I've grown up, where I was raised. Growing up in Reno, it was all we had was football and sports. So, as I got older, I realized that I just had a dog mentality in me. So I think it's definitely grown, and feeding off of the energy of the guys for sure. Seeing, I might not be having the best day, but seeing other guys making plays, I know I have to make a play, and feeding off the energy of my teammates around me. They do a great job of keeping me up, and I'm just excited to go this year. I'm ready to be physical and do what it takes, bro.
Is there a football player that you've studied or modeled your game around, either growing up or currently, that like you watch and you try to emulate?
I wouldn't necessarily say I try to emulate anybody. I don't think I have anybody who I'm really trying to be like. I think I want to be myself the most as I can. But I watch a lot of film on guys like Luke Kuechly and Fred Warner. I like the way that Fred Warner has really changed the linebacker position. I think those two guys, and also Roquan Smith is a guy that I've been compared to a lot, kind of the same build and how he goes about his plays. And yeah, I really like those guys. I watch a lot of film on those guys.
So tell us a little more about that. I mean, you said he changed the game. In what way has it stood out to you about how the linebacking position has been changed?
For me, how I see what I take from Fred's game is just how his ability to cover. Obviously, first and foremost, covering down the field and then open space. I think he's done a great job of studying film, and I take that. I admire that about these guys who are really respecting the game and really taking the time to really know the X's and O's. So I think that's something that I've taken from them.
You arrived on campus in 2020, and starting college is hard enough, man. You got to start college, and there was this global pandemic, quarantine, all the requirements of that. I mean, just take us back to that time, and I mean, how challenging of a year, was that really?
It was definitely something we've never experienced before, obviously. So I had to adjust to that, dealing with the social distancing and the different practice times and things like that. I would say I didn't get the whole college experience right away. Things were locked down. San Diego was really a ghost town for a little. Just having to deal with that and adjusting to having no fans again at the games, things like that. I feel like it also prepared us in the long stretch. It was a difficult time, but dealing with that adversity only made us better. You see how we came out in 2021. As things starting to open up, we had a really great season. So I think not only did it really pushed us, but I think it was a hectic time that ended up benefiting everybody.
In the most recent time, man, JD Wicker, athletic director at San Diego State, he's mentioned publicly about switching conferences in 2024. You would have eligibility left for that season, and if you chose to use it. But just what are your thoughts in general about the Aztecs potentially switching conferences?
It's been a long time coming. I think if you look at our history, we've always been able to compete with the Pac-12, always been able to compete with these Power 5 conferences. It's just we never really got the attention that we needed. So I think JD making strides like that and putting it public, it's about time that San Diego State gets the recognition that it needs and it deserves.
Is that something the players talk about, even maybe before this year where it was getting, really close, maybe 2 years ago? Is that something the players talked about we want to get into a bigger conference or we deserve to be in a bigger conference?
I mean, I think there's definitely been murmurs and talks and things like that have gone around the locker room, but I don't think anybody has focused too much on it. We kind of want to let that all handle itself out, and all we got to focus on is going out there and proving why we are meant to be out there and why we're meant to be in the Power 5 conference. I don't think we've really took the time to really conversate about what we feel we should be or where we feel we should be. It's more just we know our value and what we bring, and it's only a matter of time that people wake up to that.
Yeah, you talked about you're from Reno. You played at Bishop Montague High School. Did I say that right?
It's Bishop Minogue.
Minogue.
Yeah.
You did better on Vai's name, so that's good.
Yeah, you did way better on my name for sure.
All right. 1 for 2. Joey Wright, your San Diego State teammate, I believe was your high school teammate as well. You did a lot. Not only did you play linebacker, but you played all over the offense. And is it true you also were a punter?
Yeah, I used to punt it a little bit.
How was that experience?
Punting. What was that?
How was that experience?
It was good. It was good. I don't think my team was they looked at me to be like, the punter number one. I wasn't anything special, but
Hmm.
like again, it just goes back to just doing anything for the team. They needed a punter a few games. I think we had our kicker. He was out with a hamstring injury. They didn't really have anybody, so I had to step up in there. I got a few punts in, and I hung the punting cleats up, if you want to say it. Necessary to
So,
see my foot punting again.
so Jack Browning doesn't have anything to worry about.
Yeah, Jack Browning. Yeah, he don't got nothing to worry about, man. He's gonna have a great season this year.
You also played basketball and lacrosse, other than football. So out of obviously football became what you did in college, but between basketball and lacrosse, what was your favorite?
I'd say growing up, my first sport was basketball, so I always loved playing basketball. To this day, I still love playing basketball. So that was for sure my first love. But as you can see, I loved football. I love the physical aspect of it, the opportunities it's brought for sure. I'm blessed to be in this position for sure to make it out of get an education, earn my degree. I'll be graduating next year, so things have fallen into place with this football, and I'm super super thankful for it. I respect the game.
Obviously, you signed at San Diego State, but how did that recruitment process go, and why was San Diego State the place you chose?
Yeah, so my recruiting process was a little hectic. I wasn't the most highly recruited, but I still had a few coaches that really made the decision hard. I built a lot of good relationships. But what took over San Diego State is just their consistency in winning. I took a step back and looked at the opportunities that I had. San Diego State was just the most consistent school that stood for some of the values that I have, which is, winning championships. That's a big thing that they pride themselves on, and we're in contention every year. So I really took pride in that, and I appreciated how they seen me fit in this scheme, and I'm appreciative of how they treated me so far. This season should be a big one.
Tell me a little bit about the NIL club for San Diego State that I believe you're a part of. It was started in May. What could you tell me about that?
Yeah, I think the NIL club is definitely a, a great step in the right direction. I think it's helped athletes like me and my teammates gain opportunities to make special things out of our talent. So I think the NIL club is definitely good opportunity to make money.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it says at this point there are 8 football players who are involved. Wyatt Drager, Joseph Hall, Zyrus, Sammy's involved, Darian Dalton, Ryan Henderson. I don't know how you guys let an offensive player in that group, Dean Abdullah jump in, but we'll let it slide. Um, but the website promises exclusive content for club supporters. Man, are you able to, I don't know, go into any of the details of some of the stuff that you got planned?
For me personally, I don't have too much things planned in the NIL world. To be completely honest, that hasn't really been my biggest focus
Sure.
in what I got going on. So I think as I continue to keep doing my thing out there on the field, I think NIL and things like that will take care of itself. But I think for other athletes, I know there's other athletes who have really promoted themselves and done it the right way. I think Caden McDonald's was someone who we've all seen around here. He's utilized his toothless cowboy to the maximum. I think he's done it the right way. I think
Yeah.
he used his name and image and his fans to really gravitate towards what he got going on, and I think I admire something like that.
Just to finish off the interview, we have some rapid fire non-football related questions. You ready for those?
Yeah.
What's your favorite food?
Favorite food? I'd say burger, a good burger.
Do you have a favorite burger spot in San Diego?
Not any local spots, but I really like In-N-Out. In-N-Out is really good.
Nice.
So did that win? So then does that beat Whataburger?
Whataburger, yeah. There's a big debate about that. I got a lot of Southern teammates. I got a lot of teammates from the South, man. They really ride for Whataburger. I'm gonna go with the In-N-Out though. You can't beat a good steak though, too.
Yeah.
You can't
How
beat.
do you like your steak?
Come on, medium rare, man. Any other way, man? I don't know.
I'm with you. I've heard other people do it. I'm like, man, what is that about?
What about favorite movie or TV show?
Favorite TV show? I say Everybody Hates Chris. That's a good one. I grew up watching. Favorite movie? I think I go Troy. Y'all ever watch the movie Troy?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I like
you like the short movies.
short movies, yeah.
Epics, man.
Brad Pitt had a good role in that one.
What about favorite musical artist or group?
Favorite music right now? I'm listening to. I wouldn't say I have a favorite music artist right now. I'm listening to a lot of different things. I go with Lil Baby. Lil
Okay.
Baby.
What about you mentioned some of the favorite linebackers on the football world, but outside of football, who's your favorite professional athlete?
Outside of football, I say my favorite professional athlete, I think, is I have to go Muhammad Ali.
Can't go wrong with Muhammad Ali, that's for sure.
But I'm curious, man. I mean, you're a young man. How do you know anything about Muhammad Ali?
Yeah, I was gonna say Muhammad Ali or Floyd Mayweather for sure. You know, just growing up, I was always interested in the boxing world, so it took me back to research and things like that, and watching I watched a lot of interviews about Muhammad Ali and kind of how he carried himself. He had that cool swagger, real cool swagger about him.
And
Have you seen
no,
the
it makes
movie?
complete sense. What you say?
I was gonna say, have you seen the movie where Will Smith played Ali?
I haven't.
Yeah, definitely recommend that one.
It'll definitely make Chris Rock's comedy funnier as well. Hey, so how does it work with I mean, you're talking about the musical artist. How does it work with who decides what's being played in the locker room?
Man, that's a good question. I think anybody, you know, that it's obviously Bluetooth, so I think whoever gets to the aux first, and the guys kind of you can kind of decide. You'll hear somebody turn on something, and I think the guys will give them a kind of heads up if they're messing with it or not. You know, there's been a few times somebody's been kicked off the aux for sure. It's just a group thing, you know.
Yeah.
People bobbing their heads. If they're not bobbing their heads, then it's a no-go.
Favorite hobby?
Playing video games.
Video games.
I like
Yeah.
a lot, so FIFA, Madden, 2K.
The college football video game is coming back next year.
I've seen that.
It's been gone, I think, probably for like 15, 20 years, but it's exciting to come back. I know I played it when I was a kid, and definitely
no doubt.
You go.
Yeah, it should be exciting to see that.
Last one. What are you studying at San Diego State? Have you gotten a degree yet, or are you going to be getting a degree coming up?
Yeah, so I'll be graduating next semester. Not next semester, next spring of 2024. So about a year from now, in interdisciplinary studies. I like to focus on communications, and my one of my fields is recreational tourism management.
Wow.
I think I'll do I really like my major. Having that degree is something different for sure. So I feel super fortunate and blessed to have that degree, and I think that I'll be using it for sure.
Take us back to the very beginning, man. We were talking about your heritage, and you're talking about your grandparents emigrating and coming over to the States, man. What part does your degree play in their story and the reasons why they were able to come over?
I really can't pay them back for coming to America and, giving me a better opportunity out here. So I think one of the ways I can is just showing them that I appreciate them and that I'm out here working hard to, get a degree and play at the next level. So I think it's just a testament to them and me showing my appreciation to them by graduating, and it's super big. I think I'll be one of the first in my family. I know me and my brother will be. So I think it's big. It'll be big for me too.
No doubt, man. No doubt. And congratulations to you and your family, because like you said, it's amazing to go in just like you said, that third generation, to be able to be that rooted and to be able to have that kind of accomplishment, man. Quite a family, brother. Congratulations. Huge.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you. Appreciate you saluting.
Vi, thank you so much for taking the time. We look forward to seeing you on the field in the fall. It's a big senior year. Hopefully a big year for the Aztecs, and try to win 22.
Yeah, let's go, man. Go Aztecs. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good night.
Brother.
Bye.
Thank you.
Paul, that was our interview with Vai Kaho, senior linebacker. As he talked about, this is a big year for him heading into his fourth year on campus. What did you make of our conversation with him?
I mean, I think the most enduring part of the conversation for me is going to just be the connections and the depth of his family. Yeah. It's without having a direct conversation with somebody, you don't always get to know that, his grandparents were the ones who immigrated over here, and just the meaning of his name, the idea that, he's going to be one of the first to be able to graduate from college. I think, he's obviously older, so he was I think with a lot of his answers, he was very businesslike, as he should be in an interview with the media. But man, when it came time to how does that reflect with your family, I think you could see on his face how much that aspect of his life and how much they mean to him. And so I thought that was really special. What about you?
He talked about the culture and talked about how that culture is kind of grown and built from the coaching staff, but also the players that were in front of him that have left, Michael Shawcroft, Cedric Lakalaka, Segun Alubi, Caden McDonald, those guys that have kind of made the path for the linebacking crew themselves. But I think he understands that this is a big year for him. He is a senior. He started, I think, one game 2 years ago against Air Force, played snaps, but he hasn't really been that guy or one of those top guys at this point. And I think he sees his opportunity, he relishes it. He knows he has to put in the work, and he has been putting in the work, but even more so heading into the fall, so that he can be a big part. Right now, as we mentioned, he's on the second on the depth chart behind Zyrus Fiaseu. But that doesn't mean, we've seen linebackers play, and rotate. And so being second doesn't mean you're not going to get on the field. You could still get on the field and still play, 25 to 30 snaps a game. And I think he wants to make an impact on the field. And it's going to start with everything he's done, in spring and hopefully in fall camp.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that his commitment to winning, I think, would also jumped out a lot. I know everybody else couldn't see it, but as we're talking to him, in his background, is a 2016 Mountain West Conference Championship banner, and that's just what he's about. And it's like whatever it is that the team needs, that's what they're going to do. So, that game you mentioned against Air Force that he started, they decided to scrap the 3-3-5. And they went with an extra linebacker, and like the entire game, he just downhill, boom, downhill, boom, downhill, boom, and took that physical presence, and obviously played that same role against Air Force this year as well, switching off with Kyron White there and that same kind of idea. And so I just think that, being willing to play special teams, but when you have seniors who are willing to do whatever it takes to get on the field and to win, I think that can that kind of grittiness can go to other teammates, and that's what San Diego State needs to do. I mean, everyone is so curious what their record's going to be and all that kind of stuff, all those kind of things. And, there's so much that still needs to happen between now and then, like who really could say. But I will tell you this one thing, they're going to have close games. That's how San Diego State plays. And they always come down to seemingly 5 plays that if a little bit of an effort play, a little bit of a whatever goes the other way, the game changes. And so I think that having one of your leaders have that kind of perspective, down the depth chart, down the years in the program, they don't really have an excuse. They're going to be like that too. And ultimately, that's what I think you're afraid of losing when you lose Cedric Lakalaka and you lose Michael Shawcroft and you lose Caden McDonald, is you just lose that. Can't quite put my finger on why they were successful, but hey, every time they're on the field, a play is made and they do just enough to be able to impact the game in a positive way. And that's what they need from Vai Kaho.
Yeah, physicality is the name of his game. We asked him about that. Where did it come from? Some of the practices we went to, not necessarily this past spring, but like the last year, anytime things got chippy, he was in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Whether it was hitting a quarterback late or making a tackle late or getting in the face of somebody that he thinks, did something that he shouldn't have done. He was in the middle of it and he labbed that fire. And I remember asking Coach Hoke at one point about Vi, and he mentioning how he loves how he plays the game in that demeanor, in that manner. There's definitely a Coach Hoke mentality, I think, from just talking and being around Coach Hoke for a couple of years now. No surprise where he said boxing is kind of his thing with Muhammad Ali and Floyd Mayweather, a violent physical sport,
Right.
So not surprising there, even though Muhammad Ali, boxed before maybe we were born or maybe we were little kids. I don't know when he retired, but
we weren't in Manila or anything like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But that Will Smith movie, definitely, I recommend that. Anybody who hasn't seen it, anybody our age has probably seen it, but for the youngsters out there that haven't, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think people are allowed to watch Will Smith movies anymore. I think there's still a couple years before everything will be okay. I thought it was really eye-opening to get his perspective on 2020, and not just 2020, but I think it was the first time that I'd ever heard anybody connect what happened in 2020 with how well they did in 2021. And it makes sense, new coaching staff, having to play those first games up in Carson, and then going and enduring all that, and then turning that around and using that to really have an unbelievable season where they won more games than they've ever won. And so I thought that was very, very eye-opening. I also enjoyed, as you talked about, his physicality, but I think the interesting part for me is that he's always played at the Sam linebacker or an outside linebacker, when he started against Air Force, and being moved into the middle of the field, that Mike linebacker, the weak side linebacker. I think it's interesting because he sometimes can run himself out of plays. We've seen that in the past. Running yourself out of a play from that linebacker position, right, is a much bigger deal than doing it from the edge. And so I'm really interested in seeing his ability to, I guess, kind of harness everything and have all of the mental side down, and being able to play fast and being able to play, but also be fundamentally sound and be sound inside of the scheme and how everything else is working together. I think he said it really, really well when he talked about Zyrus. We asked him, what is it that what is it about his game that you appreciate? And he said his consistency. Every coach that we've ever had on here, that is absolutely the number one thing that they want out of their players, because again, they're doing X's and O's and they're trying to figure out what is the best thing that we can do that can counteract the best thing that the other team can do. And if you're inconsistent, they can't make a plan for you. And so having that consistency allows them to truly game plan, not have, if you have an inconsistent game, then their whole game plan goes away, and they're never going to build a game plan around inconsistent players because that would be foolish. It's unpredictable, right? A game plan must be predictable for it to be worth its whatever. I think it's a really important thing that he said that. I think if Vai Kaho can capture the consistency that he's capable of, I think that he has the potential to be the best linebacker on the roster. I think I think he has everything that you would want. I think he can be a physical presence. He should be able to get downhill and be used in blitz packages. I think that he can play sideline to sideline. I think that he should be able to go and cause some forced fumbles and just make people scared in the middle of the field because that Kaho is coming. I think all of those things can be there as a guy that stands out in every single game that he plays, provided he can have that consistency and he doesn't have some glaring things that defenses are able to take advantage of. And so I think the Aztecs really need him to be good.
One thing that I think deserves mentioning is, last year he was listed as the backup to Michael Shawcroft at the Will for the first 5 games of the season. And Michael Shawcroft gets injured at Boise and misses the next game against Hawaii. And the inclination was that Vai Kaho was going to be starting. And that game comes and starts, and Zyrus is starting and not Vai Kaho. And when Zyrus was 3rd on the depth chart. It's easy for a player like that to get disengaged or disillusioned, lose faith in the coaching staff. And, in this world of the transfer portal, transfer out at the end of the season, but he didn't. He stuck with it. And listening to him speak about San Diego State, you could tell that he loves being here. I think he deserves praise for being here still being committed, still working his butt off. And now this year is hopefully his opportunity to show the coaches that he should have been the guy on the field last year, or that he deserved to be on the field. And I think that deserves a mention because it would have been very easy for him to transfer or look elsewhere or not believe in the system anymore after that, but he didn't. So
yeah, no, that's great. And then I completely agree. And then of course, I think the big news around San Diego State is that Vai Kaho is getting a teammate. Some people thought it would be on the defensive side of the ball. Jalil Tucker transfers from Oregon, played 1 year redshirted, only played in 1 game, but at cornerback. But he's coming over to play wide receiver. And, you got the details from his high school coach and also the coach who's going to be working him out in the summer, getting him ready to run routes and doing all of that. So, I mean, in those conversations and what you researched, what is your takeaways from Jalil Tucker as a wide receiver?
He played primarily as an outside receiver. He's 6 foot, so he's not necessarily, tall in the wide receiver sense, but he's also not, 5'9", 5'10". He does 6 foot is average. He's got good hands, but his speed is what separates him. He's a burner, so he's a guy that can run posts and deep shots, especially in play action. His coach, offensive coordinator at Lincoln, Jason Carter, talked about how, he talks to the coaching staff at San Diego State, being a local program. He knows the things that they're looking for, the things that they want out of their guys. And he can see how they're moving towards back to this kind of, running game and play action. And he thinks Jalil's going to fit really well into that role. Next to Mekhi Shaw, you got Breon Penny still, who's, I think, the tallest guy, potential possession guy. I want to say he was a number 4 athlete in the country coming out of high school. That's saying something. And he's got the speed, he's got the athleticism. Very similar when we talked about Deshaun McEwen a couple episodes ago about his athletic ability.
That's a good point.
And so, they're bringing in some really, really athletic guys that can fly. And Jalil is one of those guys. Now, there's a lot of openings, a lot of opportunities in the wide receiver room. Can he come in starting the summer without a spring camp and get an opportunity to get on the field. We'll see. But it's, if any position has that opportunity for a guy coming in, it'd be wide receiver. He hasn't played wide receiver for at least a year, so he needs to get back into the swing of things. Coach Carter is going to be kind of training him this summer, now that he's back in San Diego, running routes and things like that. And Coach Carter does that with some other folks, some other guys, local guys, Keyshawn Smith, who transferred to SMU, I believe, a couple other guys that are local guys that come back during the summers. So like Jalil's going to be working out with not just his, offensive coordinator at Lincoln, but some of these other wide receivers that are really, really good. So he's going to be training with some of the best guys. And so he's going to have to elevate his game. And so I think it's going to be good for San Diego State to have a guy like that could scare a defense. Mekhi Shaw, we've talked about him. He's dependable. He's consistent. Jalen Maiden, has a good rapport with him, but I don't know if any defense is necessarily, keeping a safety back there to help the corner out with Mekhi Shaw. But with Jalil Tucker, once he gets into the swing of things, you may have to.
I think that's a great analysis. The part that always fascinates me is just expectation. If he comes into the 2023 season and he is a contributor, he's a great pickup for the Aztecs. And I think, though, that given the number 4 overall athlete, being able to be, in his junior year, the preseason wide receiver in the entire county, going to Oregon, having the opportunity to go anywhere else. I mean, I think the expectations are for him to come in and be Jerry Rice. And for our younger listeners, that was a really good wide receiver a long, long time ago. And so I think that's the interesting part of it, right? Like, I think that there were fans who were upset that Lucky Sutton was not higher on the spring depth chart or the post-spring depth chart. And it's like, hey, the guy's a redshirt freshman. Like, that was his first spring camp. It's not weird, no matter how many unbelievable runs that he had in high school that led him to a state title, or how many stars are next to his name. When you're going through your first spring, there are things that you have to learn. And until you learn those things, whatever physical gifts that you have, they don't matter as much. And so I think that's the part of it that I'm interested in, is what should be. And so this turning the question now, what should be the expectations for, obviously, a world-class athlete who's still incredibly young, but he's also switching positions, for his immediate impact in 2023?
In terms of statistics or snaps?
You take it wherever you want, my friend. I mean, honorable mention, all conference or above.
I don't know if the expectations should be all conference,
okay,
or bust.
Okay.
But I believe top 3 or 4 receiver in terms of snaps.
Yeah.
On the team. I think that's achievable.
I'll go 5. I'll go top 5. I can see being like a legitimate in the rotation, second tier guy, wherever that is, even if that's 6, it just depends how they break it down. I agree. And I think that would be an unreal year. And if that's the case, I think that all of the NFL kind of ideas that people have whenever you're a recruit at this size, he would be on that path to reaching that.
San Diego State is not going to be a team that's dropping back and throwing 40 times a game. I don't think Coach Hoke wants to be that guy. So it's not like the receivers are going to be getting, 8 to 10 targets a game. It could be, someone like Jalil Tucker might get 3 or 4 targets a game. And, some of those could be big shots, and can he come down with one or 2 of them? And we're talking about this year, right? I think his expectations.
That's all. Just this year.
If you look at 2 years from now, is different. But if you're looking at this year, the situation he's walking into, I would think he's on the field for 10 to 15 snaps. I think he's getting 3 to 5 targets, and he's making 1 or 2, plays that's helping the offense. That would be I guess if I had to label it, expectations in that regard, that's kind of how I would look at it. Now, he can exceed that by becoming, starter and playing 30 to 40 snaps a game and getting a lot more targets, or he could not get on the field very much. And either of those I can see happening as well. So
No, I think you just like it in a gambling terms. I think you just gave a perfect over under, and I think that's a really really fair thing. And I think that if he meets what you just said, like I think you got to be really happy. I think honestly, you got to say like, okay, we found something. But I think sometimes it seems that if he just does what you said, that's going to be a sign that like Chicken Little, it's horrible, all these kinds of things. And I'm just interested in that aspect of it, it's for him and how, all of that kind of stuff plays out. The other obviously big news, we got to hang out a little bit. There was a soccer party at Snapdragon Stadium.
Let's ticket party.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I rolled up there at 6 o'clock and I text messaged you and we were not covering it. We were just there as fans and spectators. I mean, there was 2 lines snaking out the entrance of people wanting to be among the first 1,000 to be able to get their scarf. And then by the time, you came in and joined me in line, it was already bending around and all that kind of stuff. And it was a great night, man. So I guess the question is it time for San Diego State to finally take a victory lap? Because everything that they promised with Snapdragon Stadium is occurring? Or does that happen when more of the regular campus and some of the other stuff starts to also transpire around Snapdragon Stadium?
Well, first of all, thank you for letting me cut in line.
Yeah, bro. No, that's easy. That's easy. Yeah, that's easy.
I don't know if I would have gotten a scarf if I was not able to cut. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, yes, sir.
Also,
and I think it was pretty clutch that I only let my kids have 1 soda. And so you got their drink coupon, bro. That was clutch.
More drink tickets for Andre.
Yeah.
That was
awesome. That was nice.
It also turned into quite a Aztec Twitter party.
No, there was.
We bumped into a ton of people, the Sons of Monty crew, some of the other guys that are big Aztec Twitter guys that you guys would know, Joel, Tom. So it turned into it was a soccer party, but it was a very Aztec football feel to it. To answer your question, I think the victory lap comes when they get the Power 5 invite. Even though it doesn't necessarily tie directly to the stadium, but indirectly, of course it does, because it elevated the program, it elevated the facilities. The victory lap can come when they get the Power 5 invite, and that's done. They give their notice to the Mountain West. JD Wicker just won Athletic Director of the Year at the Sports Business Journal Awards. Is that right?
I believe so.
And he was the first non-Power 5 athletic director to win that award.
I have a conspiracy about that.
Okay, go for it.
Here's my conspiracy. My conspiracy is that awards like that, or let's say the college football playoff, same kind of thing, they only let in their own people. But whenever there's an opportunity to let in one of their own people, but make it look like they're being inclusive, they go for it. So, for instance, Cincinnati getting in, I don't think they got in because, lo and behold, all of a sudden they thought that Cincinnati was the top 4 team. But Cincinnati is moving to the Big 12. So now they get to come in, and then everyone gets to say, look how inclusive we are. We would have always taken a good group of 5 school when we sure as hell know that no, they wouldn't have. And my contention is that every other year somebody else would have jumped them. But because Cincinnati is now one of the elite, and I think potentially the same thing happened with JD Wicker as being the first non-Power 5 who will be a Power 5 AD here, should his own predictions come true in 18 months or whatever, a year.
We'll see if that's true or not. The party in itself was great, giving out the scarves, free food and beers and sodas for the kids. That was really cool. Tom Penn, the CEO, was walking around, giving handshakes to people and introducing himself, introducing the Chair Martinez, I believe, from the Sequan tribe, was also there. Really good, night. It's just important. How are they going to keep that going? As you said, the first game until March 2025. they're not going to keep doing parties every month like this. Although we'll still go. We'll go if they want to. But they got to keep the momentum going because in 6 months, some people have kind of lost some of that fire for it. The diehard soccer fans will still have it, but there'll be people that'll forget about it or stop thinking about it. So I think it's important for them to keep that momentum going because it's a long ways away to March 2025.
It is, although I do think that those free drink coupons came in handy for the impromptu line dancing and then the parade that organically popped up. But no, I honestly think that if San Diego State can do things well and do things right with the PR kind of component of things, I think that the next couple of years could be one drawn out kind of victory lap. If everything happens here in the next couple of weeks, and I mean, a month from now, they're supposed to tell the Mountain West one way or another. That means every game that they play, every single time that they're talked about on the media this is their final game as a member of the Mountain West. That'll continue through basketball. And then you start jumping into 2024. You're now going in with these new conference members, all of the things, all the movement that's taking place, all of the different, hey, which conference is better? And all those articles that'll have it now include San Diego State. Then 2025 rolls around. You have MLS coming, and you're just like, oh my goodness, right? And then you have, the World Cup in 2026 coming right afterwards. And now San Diego's a soccer town as well. And they're a soccer town because San Diego State, Snapdragon Stadium, J.D. Wicker, Friends of San Diego, President De La Torre were able to pull off something that nobody said that they could pull off. I think that it can be a very, very prolonged just kind of reverie in everything that has happened. And then, I do think, you get the 2025, you start getting the river park, and really starting to see people enjoy that area more than just on when there's an event at Snapdragon. You start seeing some of the foundations and the buildings starting to take shape around it. I think it shapes out really good, man. But I think J.D. Wicker, it's really difficult to try to imagine an athletic director do a better job.
Yeah.
Like this, you know what I mean? And obviously circumstances create opportunity, but it was his call that took San Diego State out and took them away from Qualcomm and went over into LA. People still feel different ways about that decision, but that decision allowed them to build quicker, and they took advantage of that and got things done. It was his team that negotiated, so many of the business partnerships and so many of the different things, and obviously culminating with this, the wave. Just so many different things, and so it's challenging to think of how somebody could have done a better job than J.D. Wicker. So the award is well deserved, and I think provided there's not another challenge out there that becomes attractive to him. I think in the same vein that Steve Fisher and Brian Dutcher, Don Coryell, I think he has the opportunity to kind of create his own legacy in San Diego as one of the kind of the big wigs of sports in the city. And it's pretty remarkable that an athletic director can be that person.
So you can check the boxes of all the things that have happened for San Diego State in the last couple of years, and he's been front and center, leading the charge in all of them. So definitely a well-deserved award. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for us. Hopefully you enjoyed our interview with Vai Kaho. He's primed and ready for a great senior season in the fall. Thank you guys as always for listening. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and like and follow and share on all your favorite platforms. We appreciate it. We appreciate everything you guys do to help us continue doing what we do. Have a good night, and we'll talk to you guys next time. You are listening to the SDSU Football Podcast, presented by the East Village Times, with your hosts Andre Hagverdian and Paul Garrison.